Welcome to the Vineet Loya Show. The goal of this podcast is to share the knowledge and wisdom I accumulated from various sources, such as listening to amazing podcasts, or watching creative videos, TV shows, and movies, or reading insightful books, or having meaningful conversation with people in real life. I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I did while creating it. Earlier today, I was pondering on what if we are living in a simulation? It's not a new thought, there's nothing new to it. In fact, if anything, it's far from that. And I've heard so many people talk about this simulation theory. So, if you're unfamiliar, welcome to the club of insanity in some sense, because imagine that we are living in a simulation, and if you're having a hard time imagining it, then let me play out a scenario. The games you play on your mobile device, or on your TV, on your PS4, on your any video game for that matter. I can go on and on, right? So any video game you play, the characters in those game, they are a simulation. And you are controlling few characters, but plenty of other characters are programmed to do a specific task in a specific way. So the biggest theory is, are we living in a simulation of similar kind where someone else is controlling us? Or we could be just a variable in this virtually simulated reality. So basically, even if nobody is controlling us, we are still bounded by the laws of the simulation, which kind of sounds about right if you look at the reality as it exists. But at the same time, also picture that there are two different possibilities from here. Either I'm real and everyone is a simulation. So that's one of the possibility. Or every one of us are simulation, living in a simulated reality. That's the second possibility. So either it could be an individual simulation or a collective simulation. And that's where things get a little crazy, I guess, because if it's an individual simulation, then everything around you is simulated and programmed. So regardless of what you think, the technology was programmed, or let me rephrase, the mobile device, the emergence of technology or mobile devices or internet, or all the silicon devices which we are using was pre-programmed. So there was nothing you could have done to change that. And if it's a collective simulation, then we are all contributing to this reality and evolving all together wherever it takes us. So personally, individual simulations seem a bit far-fetched, but assuming it is an individual simulation, or in some sense we are living in our own individual bubble of consciousness, bubble of simulation, you call it whatever you want to. But the bigger point is, if you are living in an individual simulation, what can you do to let's just say achieve your desires, right? Because if everything in the world is simulated just for me, then that means I'm a key player here. So whatever I desire should appear. And in some sense, you can get the similar feeling if you ever done lucid dreaming, because lucid dreaming is your simulated world. So whatever you do in there, whatever you desire, appear. Uh, so if that's the reality of our reality as well, then what can you do about it? The first thing is obviously to desire. I can desire to, I don't know, have a pizza here right now, but it did not show up. Does it mean it's simulated or not simulated? I guess it's complicated than that, right? Because if it would have showed up the moment I desired, then I would know that I'm living in a simulated world. So whoever programmed this, they would have programmed it a bit cleverly, right? But regardless of that, what I can do if I assume that the world I'm living in is individually simulated just for me, all the other beings and even you are just a simulation. That's why I guess maybe I have so few subscribers because all of you are simulated. But what can I do personally to make my life enriching? One thing I can do is again desire and have a vision of what I see from my life or where I see my life heading. And then I can control my mindset. So either it could be a friendly attitude or a hostile attitude, depending on my circumstances. I can, adapt to any one of them, and I can see my reality shift based on that as well. Because when I'm friendly to the world, it feels that the world is friendlier to me. And when I'm hostile to the world, the same thing. So, in some sense, I am creating my reality. So, in some sense, it is simulation, so to speak. The third thing I can do is take action and, action towards my vision. So, regardless of the reality of the world, if I go and ask someone, let's just say someone to come on my podcast, and I believe they would, because it's a simulation and whatever I desire appears, then they would, right? But I have to take that action. They automatically won't come and ask me to be on my podcast, at least not yet, since I don't even have 10 subscribers hardly. So that's part of it. And obviously, everything fueling this is self-belief. So whether I think it is, whether I think it's not, it's true for me. Like I said, the friendly attitude versus hostile attitude. Whichever attitude I wear and go out in the world seems to mimic that in my experience. So, in a lot of sense, it feels simulated. And also, at the end of the day, I can see how fulfilled I am with the reality, with this everything, right? So that's the core of it, I guess. So if you want to imagine, or if you're having hard time imagining, let's just say, what the individual simulated world will look like, watch The Truman Show. It's very well produced or directed movie, and Jim Carrey plays the leading role, so you will be entertained, and it opens up your mind to kind of an aspect of reality altogether. So it's a very good movie to kind of check out. But more or less, um, if this is an individually simulated world, I have control over my intention, my time, and energy. So these are the three things I can, or I won't say control per se, but I have access to. So intention is dependent on my mindset and attitude. Time, I have limited time of 24 hours, so I can pick and choose what I could do within that time frame to fulfill my intention. And energy, obviously it's pretty obvious. Like we all have a different degree of energy depending on how well our body are in this stage, as well as what kind of food you're eating. So those three are something I can control or play around with to get the most out of this simulated reality.
Thanks for listening. I hope you find our one sided conversation valuable. Kindly share it with people in your life. I would love to hear back from you. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Vineet Loya. Also check out my website vineetloya.com. Enjoy rest of your day and stay peaceful.